Welcome inside the Red Zone. I'm Jack Hunter with WCAT alongside Coach Red Dobbins, and today we're going to talk about personnel in football, the universal language of football that all football teams use, including Westminster. So, Coach, let's get started.
Okay, so basically what we're going to talk about today is kind of what the universal language is, how we determine formations and defenses we're going to run. And it's kind of like across the board what all teams use. It basically determines how you're going to call offense and how you're going to call defense. So if you ever notice on Friday nights, you have coaches up in the booth, and one of the defense coaches is always looking to see how many tight ends are going to be in the game and how many running backs are going to be in the game. That will tell us whether or not it's going to be a spread offense or if it's going to be a heavy personnel offense, and how we can call our defensive package to that. So what we have here, we have some game footage from GAC that we broke down this weekend. We have this would be a 20 personnel offense because you see they got 2 running backs, no tight ends. So it always goes, the first number is how many number of running backs you have in, and the second number is how many tight ends you have in. So this would be their top offensive formation they're going to run when we break down film, okay? After that, the next clip, this is another 20 personnel because you see you have 2 running backs, no tight ends. You have the 2-by-1 with the 2 receivers and the 1 receiver on the weak side. And it's just kind of how we know how to call our defense, because if you have 4 wides, you don't want to call the same defense as if you have, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, a goal line set. So
you guys adjust based on how many skill players are on offense, how many players you guys stick in the box on defense.
Exactly. So it makes it easier for us because you've got to match what they're putting on the field. So you'll see right here we have a 10 personnel. We call this 10 personnel because you got 1 back, a 2-by-2 set. You got no tight ends in the game. So 1 for the 1 running back, 0 for the no tight ends. And that kind of, like I said, this is kind of like more spread sets in the 10 personnel. So teams that like to throw a lot, they're going to run a lot of the 10 personnel stuff. And you see that's a 2-by-2 set, and then we'll go into a 3-by-1 set. That you got the 3 receivers up top and the 1. So whenever you hear 10 personnel, you're thinking a pass first team as opposed to other formations.
You guys are sticking more DBs in the game when that happens.
Yeah,
right?
You can put your nickel and dime package in,
yeah.
So you can pull pull out an extra lineman. We're lucky enough we have Truman, who can double as a linebacker and a DB or as a D lineman because he's such a good athlete. So that helps us out to where we don't have to necessarily sub someone in, whereas other teams you have to pull out an actual D lineman and put an extra DB in to run your nickel and dime package.
Versatility right there.
Yep. So this is what you're going to call your 21 personnel. You see you got your 2 backs. You have a tight end in the game. All right, so now we're thinking run here. We're thinking first and 10, second and short type stuff. You're not really looking at passing situations because you took out the number of receivers. So we can add more people in the box because you want the number of people in the box to end at the number of people in the core for the offense as far as lineman to lineman.
Yeah.
So here's a clip of another, this is another 21 personnel. They just moved the extra wide receiver over. So now you kind of got 2 receivers to one side, so now you're playing kind of half the field right here.
Yeah, and you guys might shift over towards the wide receiver.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll bring a cornerback down and we'll play different coverage over here for these 2 wide receivers because now you only got 1 wide receiver up top. It's tight end really, so you're not as much worried about it. So. And
it's also dependent on if they're at the goal line or the down and distance or the type of personnel you do have available on your team as well.
Exactly, which will lead us into what we'll talk about here in a few minutes with goal line scenarios and situations, because you're thinking third and long, you're not going to run the ball. You're expecting to pass, because they want to get the first down.
Stick your nickel or dime package in the game then.
Exactly. So here you got 11 personnel. You got 1 back, 1 tight end in the game. This can be a tricky situation because now you're looking at an extra receiver in the game, and it kind of makes it hard to determine if they're going to run the ball because they still got that tight end in the core who's going to block, or he can run out for a pass. So it kind of makes it a little tricky for you. So as you can see right there, 85 is the tight end up there. He's lined up right here. And essentially you got a trip set because you got 3 wide receivers if you're counting the tight end. So you still got to factor 3 wide receivers to that side, 1 wide receiver up top. So next we'll go into some goal line stuff. So as you see right here, they only got 1 wide receiver. So we're looking at either 2 backs and 2 tight ends or 3 backs, 2 tight ends. All right, so it all determines on how many wide receivers you're going to have. So you're not expecting short yardage, goal line stuff. You're not really expecting pass. So we got to bring in a heavy personnel. So we'll send in an extra D lineman because you got more people in the core right there. As you see, they got 83 and 85 in there as their tight ends. This actually turned out to be a good play for us last year. Hopefully we can save one of these for this year too. So
does that also affect how good the DB is too? Can you leave them one-on-one versus a receiver?
A good DB, a good cornerback will save you all day long, because now you can match him up and you can just worry about focusing on the run, stopping the run, and let him. That's why a lockdown corner in the NFL is one of the most valuable people out there.
Yeah, so hard to find too.
Yep. So, and here's one more goal line. This is 12 personnel. I got one back and two tight ends. That adds another receiver. This can be a little bit more trickier. You don't see this a lot in long yardage situations. Again, this is another short yardage goal line type of formation. So this kind of, again, having good DBs really makes it valuable, because your first and foremost goal is to always stop the run, especially when you're 5 yards out from the end zone. You don't want to give a touchdown on a run. So now you can see that's how Lovett. That's GAC versus Lovett right there. So, and then when you get in these goal line situations, again, you want to look at bringing extra D linemen, extra linebackers. We call our personnel hammer. So that's when we bring in an extra D lineman on Friday nights.
Well, we just punched it in for 6. I'm Jack Hunter. This is Coach Red Dobbins. Catch us next week inside the Red Zone.